All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the HaskinCast Podcast, our 200th episode. And with me to celebrate is the always amazing, recently returned from France, will perform anywhere and everywhere, including today. You can see her at 2 p.m. Pacific time on Stage It. The link will be in the show notes so that you can get your ticket. Alison Arngrim. Allison, how are you?
Hi, I'm fabulous. Yes, I will. It's like, can I be on stage? Can I be in person? How about in your living room? Stageit.com, from my living room to yours. It's going to be nuts.
I have watched quite a few of these events that you've done since COVID, and they are so enjoyable. It's a really different experience. It's when you go see someone in a theater, you're with a group of people, there's a distance. I mean, here you're just right on my monitor or on my phone or
people sitting on the couch and I'm like, hello, yeah. I'm right here. It's so odd. I'm in my living room. My husband's standing there with the laptop on a thing. And luckily he laughs in all the right places. When I first started doing it, it was very difficult because, like I said, when the pandemic hit, I had all these bookings and I was devastated. It was like, I can't go anywhere. I can't talk to people. I can't, what will I do? What will I do all day? And my husband's like, you'll think of something. And next thing I know, I'm like all over the internet. So the stage thing first was like, okay, it's husband and the cats, how do I wait for what do we do? Laughs. Luckily he laughs in the right places. And then also he can see the comments that people are making during the show. Right. So if it's really funny, he goes, like the comments are rolling in. It's good. Like, oh, that was a good bit then. So it was very surreal, very surreal. I explained to Rich Little, when Rich Little, the comedian who's, quite on in years, but still at it 4 nights a week at the Tropicana, he had to do an online show. They said, nope, you can't go down to the Tropicana. It's closed. And he was like, I got to perform. So they said, okay, online show it is. And I was brought in. They go, Allison did one. Have Allison come in. Well, she'll help. And he had a really great tech guy. He had a tech guy who just had bells and whistles and things going. So I said, okay. I said, basically, I'm just sort of like the internet support. I said, all right, do you remember those shows? I said to Rich, do you remember those shows we did in the 70s where they didn't have a studio audience and you had to do your stand-up set for the cameraman and the crew to dead silence? And they said, don't worry about it. We're going to put in the laugh track later. But it meant you had to stand there for 10 minutes and tell jokes to nobody, to an empty room. And he's like, oh, yes. I went, okay, that. If you survive that gig, you could do the online show. It's the same thing. But he had a couple of friends in. He had a big enough living room. We sat socially distanced, few friends. So we all were able to laugh. So we had some people. I just have the husband and the cats, but they try.
But it works. And I really enjoyed the show that you produced for him. I live 15 minutes from the Tropicana. So when COVID first came out and they had blocked off all the parking, because there's a great locals parking area there. Where they don't charge you. And so that's one of my spots. And it was just so devastating to see that you weren't allowed to park anywhere. They didn't want you out. They wanted you home safe, which makes sense,
Yeah, right.
And I was planning on going and seeing Rich right when all that happened. So I've still got to get down there. But the weird thing to me, and I've known a few comedians, I've talked to them about how they build their act. And a lot of it is based on the feedback of the audience, whether a joke bombs, how do you do that when you're without an audience?
It's horrible. No, well, I also do a big Q&A. That was the other thing. How am I going to do this? Because the favorite part of my show live, and I did get in September, go to New York, was able to perform at Caveat and at the Rochester Fringe Festival, is the little cards that say, ask Allison anything, answer their questions. So I went on Facebook and said, okay, give me your questions now. Just put them here on Facebook and I'll print this out and that'll be the Q&A. So I did that. And the things that, work. And there were always things in the Q&A that were so funny, they wound up becoming part of the act. But yeah, it was difficult. Now, we do know that certainly got a little feedback. Like I said, we would see the comments. So apparently they really like that. And then people would later email me or Facebook me and say, hey, that was really good. And then Ron and Chip at Spin Cycle. And I remember when we were talking about Casper the Friendly Ghost and playing some of the Casper album that moment we had puppets, suddenly you had Davy and Goliath and Casper. I had more people go, wow, I didn't know there were going to be puppets. I like this part.
But that's the beauty of you, because you're so creative. You're so reinventing yourself and new ideas all the time. You're not somebody who says, okay, here's the act that I've been doing since 75. And that's what I'm known for, so that's what I'm going to do. You're constantly changing and updating and doing new things. You've got to keep it fresh for you as much as your audience.
Well, true. And I wish I updated more. It's so funny. I look at my schedule and I read my newsletter and I'm so busy. It's insane. I feel like I'm really lazy and not getting anything done. It's like, you're an actor. You're like, you've done 27,000 things that day. And you're like, I've done nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So, the online tried to revamp it. Like, okay, so this one, knock stuffing out of Nellie Olson. I'm like, oh, like all the stories about when I've gotten beaten up. Primarily for being Nellie, because there's a lot of material.
Which kind of makes me really sad, but it kind of also is a big compliment to what a good actor you are, right?
Right? I mean, that's the thing. It's like when people say, I hate you. You were so awful on the show. I wanted to reach through the screen and slap you. I always say, thank you. You're too kind.
Yeah.
Because it means I did it right. I mean, I've always loved villains in film and TV. And so if you're booing and hissing, and I've done it correctly. But yes, I have actually been physically attacked on several occasions. So it's like, oh, that's good material. So we're like, knock the stuff. We were trying to, and coming up with the titles is fun. We were throwing around titles. We could knock the stuffing out of Nellie Olson.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
That's the one.
Could they have handed you a better opportunity for a great title? But I remember the last time, or the first time you were on the show, you told the story about the McDonald's orange juice being dumped on you at that parade. And I'm thinking,
I have to keep that.
I love it. And I hate that people can't just say, wow, you're so good. You really just like, I feel my muscles tighten when you come on the screen. They have to physically act it out, as if they need to get even with you somehow.
When I saw that movie, what was it? The Weatherman with and I said the guy gets hit with the milkshake. I was like, did that first? Yeah, been there.
Yeah, that bit was written on my history, probably.
But it's having people throw things at you and yell and scream like that's. I always say people go into show business because they want to be loved. And it just kind of went the other way with me. People hate me, but I've parlayed it. And like I have now the cooking videos is so crazy. I started reading the Little House books online. And then I said, okay, what do you guys want? And they're like, we want cooking videos. I'm like, okay. And then it's such a great riff because Nellie couldn't cook. So who's going to do the cooking? As I said in the show. So it's hysterical. I can cook. Nellie couldn't. So it's called Who's Going to Do the Cooking? And now there's a whole YouTube channel and I'm writing a cookbook and it's a whole thing. Teach like cooking lesson for people who can't cook. I'm writing a cookbook for people who say, I can't cook. I have no idea. Like breaking down recipes, super, super simple things that anyone can make with simple equipment. Like, I mean, I literally, my first cooking video was like, and this is how you make scrambled eggs. And it was like, 40,000 hits. People wanted to, apparently, everyone was very bored and really wanted to watch me make scrambled eggs. But they're really fluffy, the way my dad taught me. They're really like fluffy and delicious. So, yeah.
Well, I think part of it is just how you're going to present the making of the eggs. I want to know what the eggs are like, but I think it's how is Allison, because you're fun. I mean, when people tune into you, they expect to laugh. They expect to be smiling the whole time because that's what you always deliver. So I think it's more how is Allison going to make eggs?
Well, I've met people. I mean, I had people come up at autograph shows, my show later, go, oh my God, I love the cooking videos. And it wasn't just like, women. I started getting these guys. So with this trucker comes up to me in Missouri at the Cherry Blossom, a big trucker beard guy, the baseball hat, the whole bit. I really like the cooking videos. And I'm like, okay, this is not my demographic. Really? And he says, oh, yeah, I like to listen to them in the truck. I put it on the Facebook, listen to it on the phone in the truck. My brother and I, we had to deliver a load like over in Oklahoma and we had to drive for hours. And so we put on your cooking videos. And if it's in the car, we find it very amusing. So there's people who are just listening to it and watching it because it's funny. And like people who you never in a billion years would think would be sitting around watching Nellie Olson make pancakes and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and it's weird because you say demographic, and I kind of think that you're really for everyone. I mean, obviously your target audience is people like me who grew up watching shows like Little House and the shows of the people that you often have on your own podcast, the Alison Arngrim show, Petticoat Junction, shows like that. But I really kind of think you're for everyone who just wants to experience something that's going to make them smile.
I hope so. And it was even with Little House on the Prairie itself, we're on our 7th generation of viewers. I'm astounded how many young people watch it. I'm like, okay, people my age, they grew up watching. And then there's the rerun generation who are like a few years younger, who are in their 40s and they watched it after school and they watched it in the morning before school. I'm like, okay, so that generation who are much younger watch it. But I mean, it's just people. You go on Facebook. And there's people that just started watching it. There's young people on Facebook, and they're asking questions about, so with Mr. Edwards and with he that they, and he's like, the show, it's been 50 years. And they're like, no, I don't know. I just started watching the show this year. I have no idea. And people are going, don't you know that? They're like, no, I just started watching it. They're like, they showed the episodes out of order. Wait, what happened to the guy? And the other people having to explain. I'm like, it's a new show to these people. Right. So it's like we're 7 generations in. There's kids who are like now watching it. And I'm like, that is so weird. And the people who come to my show, big cross section, they're relatively young. I get women and gay men, they're like the biggest groups, but like 30s and 40s. And then I have the people like my age who come with the hard fans. But I have some shockingly young people show up at my shows and events. I'm always amazed.
I love that because, and there are not a lot of shows that have had that continued following. You know, there's a few where like WKRP, people are still discovering WKRP and going, oh my God, I love the show. How is it only on for a handful of seasons? Right. But for some reason, there's just something about Little House that brings people together. It gives them those good values without all the frills of electronics and, you know, it's basic life.
Back. I mean, during the pandemic, everyone realized we had an episode called Quarantine and an episode called Plague. Mm-hmm. And we all wound up in the New York Times because they started writing about it. And then the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, somebody noticed that we had an episode called The Wisdom of Solomon with Todd Bridges dealing absolutely head on with racism and slavery.
That's
People
right.
are like, whoa, this is some heavy language in this show. This is like 1976. What is happening? We did that. This was on then? And it's like, yeah. And so we dealt with everything, racism and drug addiction and rape and murder. And it all happened on the Prairie. So people started watching it when they were all home in 2020. And they went, I didn't know this show was that interesting. And we got like a whole new audience. Well,
I think too, as you get older or as the world has changed, you start seeing things with a different set of eyes. I remember watching The Sound of Music a couple years ago, and I hadn't seen it in probably 30 years. I was fairly young when I saw it. And so watching it again, all of a sudden now I'm seeing all the political and you know, the evil in it. Whereas before I was like, oh, these are the bad guys. These are the bad guys. These are the good guys. You know, the good guys are the ones that sing, you know. But all of a sudden, I'm starting to see it with a different set of eyes going, how horrible was it what these people were going through in this movie? I just saw it as a movie when I was a kid, just a storyline.
And the real Von Trapp family story is very interesting. The Little House Von Trapp time. So there's this guy, William Anderson, and he's written all these books about Laura Ingalls Wilder. He's like an English teacher, history teacher. And he wrote like one book about Laura and it kind of like took off. So it's like, I had to write like 9 more. So he's written all this historical stuff about Laura. But his other thing is he's just written this whole book about the Von Trapp family. And he's met them all and the children and grandchildren of the Von Trapps. And that's a whole thing of how they escaped from Austria and the Nazis because they were going to kill them.
Yeah,
it's like, wait, what?
But to me, when I was a kid, these are just people that are getting kicked out of their house during violent times. You know, I didn't see all the real depth of it.
Turning up the Nazi flag and ripping it down.
Yeah, but it didn't have the symbolism, you know, at the time. Now, of course, as an adult, I understand it. So I think too, there's just this desire of the world is moving so fast. The days seem to be hours, and it's tomorrow already.
How is it almost? This year is almost over. 2021 wasn't it just 2021 January, like 5 minutes ago?
I agree.
What happened?
Yeah.
Okay. I went to order more because you have the tin cups and the bonnets and things I sell in the store. I went to go order more tin cups. They're out of tin cups, and she said, "I can't get any more till next year." And I said to my husband, "We can't get more cups till next year." And he said, "Next year," and I went, "In 6 weeks."
Yeah, it sounds so much more epic. Wow.
He's like, next year, yeah, because it's halfway through November and next year is January.
Right.
And he's like, when, how did that, where did it all go?
Yeah.
It's Thanksgiving.
I'm waiting for Christmas to fly by.
July, 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Two or three more days, Christmas will be over. And yeah, it's insane. But I think there is some desire in all of this to go back to simpler times, to not have to feel all these pressures that we do. And I think that's another part of the attraction. You know, when the biggest excitement is, did Pop bring me a peppermint on his trip? You know, as opposed to we're like, hey, when does this game come out? When does this movie come? You mean I have to wait 2 weeks for this movie to come out? What the hell?
We each got a tin cup. We now have our own cup to drink out of.
I think it was. I think it was in The Long Cold Winter, which was the one where she was so dwelling on this peppermint, and of course, as a kid, I'm like, I get it. You know, I had to send away for stuff with an international money order and wait 6 weeks or months for it to come back. I get it.
Right?
Yeah. Now, speaking of not having to wait for things, though, you have a new movie because, again, you just can't sit still for 2 seconds.
Nope. And like everyone was stuck at home, and it's like in middle of the pandemic. I'm making a movie. What do you mean you're making a movie? We're in lockdown. So I had met this fabulous woman, Savannah, at an autograph show thing, and Savannah Osler, and she said, so I've made this movie, and she was fairly young. She said, I wanted to make this movie. I was a teenager. I wrote this whole thing about a girl. It was 2 sisters trying to make it in the music industry with their band, sticking to their values. And she ran into every possible roadblock. I mean, you could make a movie about her making this movie. It was like that, because everyone was like, oh, does it have to be 2 girls? Can it be 2 guys? Oh, can they be really sexy and be like naked by page 2? And she's like, no, that's actually not what it's about. Okay. Yeah. And she stuck to her guns. She got this movie made for like 10 cents. And so I had interviewed her, and I thought she was really cool. Then I see the movie, and I'm sitting there, and I go, I know this thing is a budget of, 29 cents at a sandwich, but this is like good. This is like, well, that's like proper lighting and camera. I've been in things that had a bigger budget that weren't that good. So I'm like, this is like good. She's like, knows what she's doing. So she says, well, I'm making a sequel. And I tell her what you're in. I'm like, yeah, sure. So she calls me because I got the money. I'm making the sequel. The band, they get to Nashville and everything's going great, and their manager leaves, and they have to get this other manager, and this evil, manipulative, horrible woman who's a band manager shows up and tries to just ruin this girl's life and exploit her and turn her into a sex bomb and break up the band and everything.
Where would we find an actor that could do such a role?
So evil. And she's like, she's kind of horrible. Do you want it? I'm like, yes. And she sends me the script, and it's like fabulous. She's just so awful. And it's realistic too, because like I said, she got run through the ringer in Hollywood trying to make the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So when a lot of people who worked in the music industry or in Hollywood saw it and went, that was a little too accurate. We've met her. So it was really evil. And I said, you're going to make this? No, I got the money. So, we cut a deal, and I said, how are you going to make this during the pandemic? She said, well, everything I've done, I was told was impossible and I couldn't do it. So I guess I can do this too. So next thing I know, I'm on a plane, like the whole section is empty, masked, on a plane to Utah. And they had me test before I got on the plane. And then I arrived, I spat in a tube again. They tested again. We did testing every 2 days. We get to the set, and it's masks and distancing. It's digital. Cameras, in the next county down that way. Right. And so everything's separate, and go stand by that monitor. And everyone was constantly tested and temperature checks, and we ate lunch outside, and we shot a movie, and nobody got sick. We did it. And we shot this thing, just banged it out. And then I got back all in one piece and went, that was amazing. And then she said, oh, yeah, I finished it. It's really good. I got distribution. I go, what? Well, there was this guy in it when I did the last film, and he said I should call him. And so it's in theaters. So I go to a red carpet thing at a theater in Utah. Okay. It's shot in Utah. And yes, we have not one, 2 Osmonds. 2 Osmonds in it.
Wow.
Lovely, lovely people. So, but Marie's nephew, yeah. So we had 2 Osmonds. It's very cool. And Nathan Osmond, and then what's the other one? Was it Nick? But there's 2 Osmonds. Nathan Osmond, lovely guy. And you can't make a movie without an Osmond in Utah, and she got 2 of them. So she's in the theaters, and then it's been in theater in LA, and she's got it now. It's out on Blu-ray. And I'm just like going, who are you? And there's people who had 10 times the money she did in the movie's not theatrical release.
Yeah. I love that. I love her tenacity. I love her belief in herself, but I love the statement, everything else I've done has been impossible, so why can't I do this too? I think that is an incredible mindset.
Yeah, she said, they've been telling me since I was 14, no, you can't do that. You can't write this script and you can't make this movie. And then I made the first movie, and they said, you can't make the second movie. No, you can't. She said, I've just been hearing, no, you can't do that. It's impossible. She said, everything. She said, everything I did, I wasn't supposed to be able to do. So I guess we'll do this then. Just like, oh, well, another thing that is completely impossible. And so I not only made a movie in 2020, in September 2020, successfully without anyone getting sick, and then it came out. And so you're like, you made a movie in the pandemic, and it's like a lead role, and it's in theatrical release. I'm like, right. Yes. So like, how do you do it? I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, you would expect at best, you're looking at like straight to Blu-ray, straight to Netflix, maybe.
Did you freeze?
Oh, I think so.
I'm like tapping on the screen. Are you there?
I can hear you. Should come.
There you
Oh,
are.
there you
Okay,
are.
yes, something went wonky for a second.
Yeah, that seems to happen to me
okay.
every once in a while.
I was so excited. I squeezed and it broke the internet or something. There, yeah.
Look what we've accomplished on episode 200. It's amazing. Yeah, I met her, I think it must have been in Arizona, because I think that's where she was getting into film, was in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. But I used to work in film out there
started
too.
In Utah, and then she was in California, and then she went back to Utah, and then, but yeah, no, just amazing, just stunning.
Yeah, but I love that tenacity. And, you have to reach out for the stars. If you want anything, nothing happens because you wish it. It happens because you take action.
Yeah, because she just said, well, I'm going to do it. And everybody said, no. Yeah, you have to, and yes, action begets action. So you start working on something and maybe that doesn't work out. But while you're doing it, something else happens and you meet somebody while you're doing it. And then this other thing, like I said, I went to this kooky autograph show in where the heck was I? It was the Snake River something Comic Con in Pocatello, Idaho, like in the song.
Is that on a map anywhere?
In Pocatello, Judy Garland sings. I was born in a trunk at the Princess Theater in Pocatello, Idaho. And there really is a Pocatello, Idaho, and there really is a Princess Theater. So yes, and I went there. It's an apartment building now, but it's the Princess Theater. They kept the lobbies. But yes, so in Pocatello, Idaho, and I'm like, why am I in Pocatello, Idaho? And there's people dressed as zombies and Star Trek people and Star Wars people and mermaids and zombies. And I'm like, why am I here? And then I met this woman, and now I have a film out.
I love it. But I think being open to possibility too is a big part of it, because when people contact me about something, my first reaction is, oh God, what? And then, and then I go, wait a minute, I don't know who this is. I don't know what this might be. And I just kind of I've had so many bad experiences that my initial reaction is, oh God, what? But then I go, wait a minute, just take a breath. This could be something amazing. You really never know. But if you don't open your mind, if you don't at least look at things with an open mind, nothing will ever happen to you.
Oh, all the kooks call me. I get the emails for these projects. I'm like, seriously, dude? But I check them. I read them just in case. And I always say, if you are listening, you're a sound of my voice. If you are an independent filmmaker and you have a script, here's what I'm going to say. Does it pay? You have to pay something.
Yeah.
Not $1 million, but you have to pay me something. Mm-hmm. It has to be SAG. This film, in fact, when she was starting, she's like, I don't know if I can be SAG. Yes, you have to. Oh, I guess I'm going to be SAG now. And there you go. It needs to be union. Mm-hmm. It needs to pay. And I have to like the script. If I read the script and I think it's funny or there's something about the character I like, and you can do it under a SAG contract, whether it's SAG New Media, online, web series, some hokey thing like that, some side door, you can go there. Right, ultra low budget experimental, whatever you have to do. If it is union and I like the script and you can pay me, I'll probably do it. And so you should contact me or my agent. So if you're making a little tiny film and think, oh, she won't do this, you should probably call just in case.
I love that. And, to give my own example of that, when I've reached out to people to be on this podcast, I thought, I'll never get them. I'll never get this person, and you were one of those people. I thought I'll never be able to get Allison Arngrim on the show. And when I was around episode 80 or so, I reached out to you and I said, I would love to have you as a guest of my 100th episode. And you wrote back and you said, sounds great. Let's do it. I'll get you in contact with my publicist. Just like that. Yeah, yes. You would have never been on the show if I didn't reach out and just give it a shot. If you'd have said, no, I can't do it or whatever, that would have been fine because I would have tried. I would have reached out and given it a shot.
I speak to my publicist, and partly because he remembers who I've already talked to and how many shows I'm doing that week. But the other is he also, because he's a publicist, he has all those services he belongs to. And he can call me back and go, yeah, this guy's not on any of the services. Nobody listens to his show. He has a following of 3 people, and one of them is his mom. So do you want, or
I was up to 7 at the time. So,
right. Or he'll call and go, hey, no, I checked. This guy has listener and he's like, syndicated. He's over on, iTunes and Stitcher or whatever. And he's got a follow. I'm like, okay, great. So he knows. He actually knows if you have listeners or not. Will tell me. So sometimes he calls and goes, now this person's some kook in a basement. And other times he goes, oh yeah, he is a good show. You should totally do it.
Well, I think he probably said, well, he is a kook in a basement, but you should do it anyway.
Yeah. Seems good to me.
Yeah. And
then he wants all his other clients on. You get all his other people. So that's fun.
I do. I just interviewed Dee Wallace yesterday. Today, as we're taping. Oh, she's amazing.
How much do you love to?
A huge fan of hers. And I actually almost worked on a film with her years ago. So we actually were friends. The first time I interviewed her, I didn't even know who Harlan was. So I booked her and Gabrielle. Then I met you and found out that they were with him. And I'm like, oh, I hope he's not going to be upset that, but I built a great relationship with Harlan. He is an amazing, amazing guy.
He's very sweet. He's a nice person. So,
he knows everyone and everything. He has seen it all.
He knows everyone.
He does.
The whole thing, how he technically still works for Bob Hope.
Yeah. I mean, he told me about that. I love that.
It's like, okay, so there's some family members left, but it's also like, so they name a new USO building, say the Bob Hope Memorial USO Hall, because that's a big thing. So they name something after Bob Hope. Well, who's going to write the press release? Who's going to get the clips, the film clips for the news when the news covers the opening of the Bob Hope? Who's he was? Somebody has to supply the photos and the film clips. Somebody has to write the press release. Somebody has to take the phone calls and say, yes, it's at 7:00. Somebody has to do that.
That's right.
So he technically is still working for the Bob Hope estate. It's crazy. And they put a book out. The family put a book out. So
yes, and that was an amazing idea too. What I've learned is that managers and publicists, their career with an artist does not stop when that artist passes away. They actually have to do a lot more work a lot of times after that. There's so much more to deal with than when they were alive.
It's very weird. Yes, administering a celebrity estate, as it were, publicity one. It's a very strange gig, but you're right. Somebody's got to do it. So there you go.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested in a little bit more on how that works, listen to the episode that I did with Steve Weltman, who is the manager for Ken Hensley and Lee Kerslake's estates. I was really just blown away by how much more work he has to do, and we talk about that on that show. Allison, I love that you are on the show. I hate that we're running out of time because it always goes so fast when you're on the show. Yep. So really quickly, I want to say the movie that you did with Savannah was called
Even in Dreams.
And that is available now on Blu-ray?
It's on Blu-ray and DVD and also in a theater near you.
Excellent. And theaters are back.
I know. And if you're not comfortable, like there's a high caseload in your neighborhood, you can rent them. You can call up the theater and say, me and my 20 friends, and chip in, and for like a couple of $100, you can rent the theater for you and your friends. That's right.
And be good to your concession people because you're taking away from their business. So later today, not as we're recording this, but in the time that it's being released, you will be on at 2 p.m. LA time. Knock the stuffing out of Nasty Nellie, and then you will be back for another stage at around Christmas time, and that is the Nasty Nellie Noel?
Yeah, Nellie's Nasty Noel.
Nellie's Nasty Noel, yes. Excellent. And what are you guys doing for Thanksgiving?
I'm making a big old turkey. My husband has this really great Sicilian stuffing recipe with pine nuts and things. Ooh. So he does the stuffing, and then I do the turkey, and I'm making the cranberry sauce from scratch with orange juice and orange zest. And we'll do the mashed sweet potatoes stuffed into the orange, because it's my father's, how old? I think my father would be not 100, but like 90 or something if he was alive. So it's his. So I'm going to make his famous sweet potatoes where you mash them and put orange juice and currants and put them in an orange. It's all very clever. So we're making a whole ton of food is what we're doing. Right. And we're having a friend over and another friend by Zoom.
Well, that's a lot of food for a friend.
I know. It's like, okay, so we're making like 87 different things.
Right, yeah. Now, are you going to be, because you also have a YouTube channel where you are cooking now because you don't have enough free time for yourself. You've got to fill that 5 minutes with something else. Are you going to be
Who's going to do the cooking?
Yes.
Yeah. I probably will. We'll probably do like a little bit of live feed as we make the stuffing, and then I'll come back a couple times when I baste the turkey. We'll throughout the day do little clips. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait until later today to get to watch another one of these events. I will have to see Rich Little. I'm just going to have to do it. But you did a great job producing that episode of Stage It for him as well. I really enjoyed that. You are always a joy to have on the show, my friend. And we didn't even get to talk about the legislative work that you're doing. We will have to do that because it's kicking in again. There's some really good things happening.
It's kicking in again. We're probably revitalizing our whole legislative thing over Protect, because mostly we've been doing stuff with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, helping the ICAC teams and all this other stuff, and the Weiss Center for Child Rescue Technology. But looks like we will probably have some legislative stuff next year. So I'm like, So
that is amazing. And you know, I had just seen an ad on YouTube actually where there was a little girl with this man walking through the mall, and they pass in front of this lady, and the little girl knocks the phone or whatever the woman had out of her hands. And as they pass by, the woman looks up to see why she did that, and the girl's using that hand sign.
What's that thing? Help.
Fold your thumb in and bring your fingers down over it. And I thought, wow, you know, there really is a great opportunity for people to be aware. If you just pay attention to what you're seeing, you might be able to save a life.
Yeah. And it's just like the stuff that's going on the internet, it's insane. And it's people you wouldn't suspect. I mean, well, every time they have a raid and they wind up arresting like a bunch of people in 5 different countries for distributing child porn and trafficking, and it's all over the place. It's doctors and lawyers and school teachers and the youth counselor. And it's like,
Yeah, this idea of we have to get more extreme and we have to do forbidden things and all that, it's got to stop.
Yeah, everything like bigger, faster, better, bigger, faster. And unfortunately, child exploitation followed the same pattern. It didn't Yeah,
very unfortunately. But you're helping to do things about that to make a better world for our future generations. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on and celebrating the 200th episode with me. It's been great as always. Thank you.
Happy bicentennial.
Yeah, both of my podcasts have actually hit 200 within a couple weeks of each other. Nice. So it's I sit a lot.
I sit a lot. You got to get up and move around. You got to get like a standing desk or something. It's the only way. My husband has a standing desk at work, so otherwise
I've been thinking about that. I actually do go out really late at night and I walk the strip once a week just to get out of the house, get some exercise, some fresh air, which is now unfortunately very cannabis filled. It's not as clean as it used to be, but the later you go, the better chance you have of fresh air. So thank you, my dear friend. Keep doing the stuff you're doing. Everybody check her out. Also check out the Allison Arngrim Show, which you can find on all of your podcasts. She's everywhere I am and probably more places. You take care, Allison. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Bye-bye. I feel so fortunate to be able to sit down and talk to some wonderful people like Allison, who, while we mostly talked about her work as an actor and a comedian, she is doing some amazing, amazing things in the world, especially in making sure that children are cared for, that they are not put in harm's way. There are so many laws on the books that are just messed up, and she is doing a lot to fix that. There's some great things coming. If you want to learn more about that, listen to episode 100, which was the first time that she came on the show. But thank you guys. Thank you, Allison, for coming on, for celebrating my 200th episode of the show. We have 100 more to go. We are 2/3 of the way to the finish line. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.